Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking specifically about our new Mafia real street bike that we're building. In the last video, we talked about the differences in a real street bike, a pro street bike, and two different grudge bikes. Well, that video, you guys commented a lot about how much you like the real street bike and how you wanted to know more about it. So in this video, it's kind of a follow-up video talking about the differences or all the things that go into this build and what make this a 400 horsepower monster. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Click the bell for further notifications on more videos that we do. We've got more videos on our Pro Street coming up next, so stay with us on this one, guys. Alright, so yes, you heard me right. 400 horsepower on this GSXR 1000, what looks to be an everyday street bike. Well, a lot of you are probably wondering, how in the world does this bike make 400 horsepower and my bike only makes 160 horsepower or 170 or even 200? Well, today we're going to talk about what makes this bike so special and what goes into building a bike like this. Not only does it take a lot of time, but it also costs a whole lot of money. We're going to go over a few of the points that this bike has, and I'm going to show you and break down what a lot of this stuff cost, because a lot of people were messaging me in the last video wanting to know, what was involved in making this much power. How does it make this much power? What does it cost to make this much power? What does this part cost? What does that part cost? So today we're kind of going over the ins and outs of what all these things cost, what it requires to make this much horsepower, and realistically, how long does this much horsepower last? If you built a bike like this, how long could you expect it to run before you need to freshen it up? So realistically, we'll get right down to the I guess you would say the beginning stages of that, and that's going to be the engine. The engine on one of these bikes, so this particular engine is a 3mm piston kit with a 6mm billet stroker crank. Now that works out to be close to 1200 cc's. This is a rather larger GSXR 1000 build. This bike will make approximately 220 horsepower on just the motor, no nitrous, no additives, no anything. And then it has about a 200 shot of nitrous. Not about, actually it has a 200 shot of nitrous. And then it has a second stage that we could go to if need to be with an additional 50 horsepower. Now that 50 horsepower is going to shorten the life, but that's in a close race situation where you got to win. Sometimes you have to push the limits in order to win, and this particular customer is doing whatever it takes to win the race. Now, another thing you're going to see right off the bat is the carbon fiber wheels on the bike. This bike has Rotobox carbon fiber wheels. We can zoom in on those a little bit there. Those wheels are north of $3,500. Very expensive, crazy lightweight. If you feel these, if you were just to pick them up and put them in your hands, you would almost think they're pretend wheels. They don't even feel like they could be real. The next thing you're going to notice that's special, that may look different from your bike, is the clutch cover. That clutch cover is called a quick access clutch cover. You'll see we can take just the 4 bolts off in the black part there and remove the clutch cover in about less than a minute and be able to access our clutch to be able to maintenance it. The clutch on a bike like this making 400 horsepower has to be maintained every pass, and we'll probably go through a set of clutches in one weekend. So just in order to operate the bike, you're going to have to buy a set of clutches every week. Now, if it had an MTC Gen 2 clutch or some sort of lockup clutch, slider clutch, the clutch will last much, much longer. But the class that this bike races is called Real Street, and it must utilize the stock clutch system. Well, to make a stock clutch system work with 400 horsepower, we have to have very heavy-duty springs and very short life in the clutch. It's not going to last long. Next thing you're going to notice is that humongous DME exhaust pipe, the Sidewinder exhaust. Now, that particular exhaust system is called a Pro Nitrous header. It is very, very large for a motorcycle. And that exhaust system is close to $2,000. It's about $1,900. And then by the time you get it put on, you'll easily have $2,000 in this system. But you can see the quality of it as well as the size of it. Now, up in here we can kind of see the radiator. The radiator has been shortened on this bike. Something like that is fairly inexpensive. Costs you around $200 to shorten the radiator. Not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. The next thing you'll notice, the swing arm. That's a DME adjustable swing arm. A swing arm like this is around $1,300. The next thing you'll notice is a Penske Racing rear shock. We run those on all of our bikes here at Mafia. Penske Racing is one of our sponsors, and they do make some of the finest shocks in the world. We've actually experimented with a bunch of different ones, and these are definitely the ones we like the best. We actually prefer the air shock the best, and we haven't put it on yet, but we're going to put the air shock on this bike here soon. You'll also notice the foot pegs are different from your normal foot pegs. They are moved down and back farther than a stock foot peg would be. And then you're going to notice the little chromoly gear shifter. Now, this is out of the way. If you were to try to get your foot up there, you're not going to hit the factory gear shifter to say as you would on a stock set of foot pegs. Now, this right here, this is our air shifter system. This bike, as you can see, doesn't have the airline going to it. It's not finished yet. But in order for us to shift gears, all the rider will have to do is push the horn button. When he pushes the horn button, that will jerk the gear shifter and cause the bike, or allow the bike to shift gears. We'll go into some of the stuff up here. There is no ignition switch that's in use anymore. We have eliminated that, and we have made this the ignition switch. So you'll push the hazard lights, that turns the ignition on, and then check this out. 10 seconds later, the headlights and taillights will activate. We have it done like that in order to give you time to start the motorcycle without having the extra drain of the headlight and taillight on the electrical system. We got to have as much power from our batteries as possible in order to start the bike. All right, guys, now I'm going to fire it up for you, let you see what it sounds like. Alright guys, I can't gas this out too much, but as you can tell, the motor is definitely quite healthy. Sounds good. Alright guys, give me 1 second. I'm going to get this bodywork off and show you what goes on underneath. And we're back. So we got the bodywork off. Realistically, that took me about 2 or 3 minutes. I already had some of the screws loose and out. Now is going to really see where you can sink in some money. This bike is equipped with a Max ECU race system on it. It has our custom race wiring harness. You can see all the wiring, how clean everything is. Now keep in mind that this bike is not 100% finished. So the nitrous solenoids are not mounted. I mean, there's still a few things that's left to be done, but you guys were all dying to see the video, and I just so happen to have time today to make the video, and so that's where we're at. You can see our wiring harness here. Each piece of the harness is labeled. All the wires for the harness. It's the same way in the front for the ignition. This is the bike with the airbox off. You see we've made a carbon fiber plate here that holds some of the wires up, the oxygen sensor and some of the main harnesses that go up to the front of the bike. That carbon fiber panel keeps a lot of heat off the wires and sensors, plus holds everything nice and neat in place. Now these coil packs that you see, those are not factory coil packs. Those are made by Energy Coil. Those coil packs provide us with much more spark to be able to fire the, I guess you say, the nitrous system, give the nitrous system the amount of spark that it needs to run that much nitrous on a bike and not tear it up all the time. You have to run them fairly rich. Fuel system has to be beefed up a lot. Bigger fuel injectors, bigger fuel pump, and then you also have to upgrade your ignition system to be able to fire all that fuel. Lots of stuff goes into these bikes that a lot of people forget about or don't understand. You can see up here we've got to add other sensors later on. That'll be going for, we'll have a laser on this bike, we'll have a wheel speed sensor on this bike, and what that laser will do is it will mount up here in the front of the bike, and it's essentially a ride height sensor. So it'll tell us if the bike is wheeling, where it's wheeling at in the track, and how much it's wheeling in the track. Back here in the back is our relays and fuse system. So this bike will still have, you know, fuses for the fuel pump, for the headlights, tail lights, all that stuff has been mounted in the stock subframe, which is a rule and requirement that we are required to have. So all this is a factory operating, you know, standard tail section that we've put a whole lot of aftermarket stuff in. You guys probably know on your GSX-R 1000, if you have a Bazzaz or Power Commander, how much of a disaster they can be underneath the bodywork. This bike also has 2 batteries. The battery box is not 100% made and mounted yet, but you can see these batteries are extremely small and lightweight. Those batteries, this one here is around $250 and this one's around $150. So the batteries get super expensive. A Max ECU race is a little under $2,000 for the ECU, and then the wiring harness and the complete wiring install is about $2,500. So it definitely gets super expensive when building one of these bikes. You know, realistically, this guy probably has 40 grand in this complete motorcycle by the time he built the engine, built the wiring harness, had it tuned, had the exhaust system, the wheels, the swing arm. You say 40,000 like it is crazy expensive, which it is, but when you start writing all the stuff down, it disappears real quick on paper. The forks on this bike, they're not done yet, but they will be internally cut and shortened. Something like that is about $600, I think, to have the forks shortened. Every little thing on these bikes adds up. The chain is about $225 for the chain to handle the horsepower these bikes throw at it. And this bike, it'll be able to run the same chain all year long probably. A short bike like this is not too hard on a chain, but the longer you make the bikes, like the Pro Street, it usually gets a new chain every race. This bike here, chain will last much longer because it's not going to be leaving as hard. Any other questions you guys have, feel free to comment in the comments below. I think that about wraps this video up. In the next video, we will have some more close-ups and going over Black Mamba with all the clothes off it, showing you what goes involved in one of those. And then we've also got several other grudge bikes that we're currently building now. You can see what they start from. This is another Max ECU race system that we're putting together on a GSX-R 1000 race bike. This particular bike is owned by the same gentleman that owns that bike. So the same guy with the real street bike has the grudge bike. So we're gonna wire this bike up, mock everything up. It'll come back apart. We'll repowder coat the frame. We'll finish mounting the body work. We're gonna custom paint it. Lots of stuff to be done for this. It's gonna be a whole winter long project, but it will be done soon. This is another grudge bike that's in here, just getting some tuning stuff. It's another bike that belongs to Ortiz Racing. You may have seen them in some of the other videos. All right, guys, please comment and like the video. Subscribe, click the notifications bell so you get more notifications as we do further videos. And as always, we appreciate you for watching. Have a good day.